Hey guys, as I mentioned, jumping today by reviewing The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, which was released on Friday the 16th of July 2021 for the Nintendo Switch. Now, this game was announced back in February, I believe, of this year in, I think, a Nintendo Direct, and then they released it a few days ago. And this is basically the main origins of the Zelda timeline, so it's basically the origins of the overall timeline itself, the Triforce, Hyrule, the Master Sword, basically everything that has been seen in the other Zelda games. And if you're a new Zelda fan and this is one of your first games, don't worry, I'm not going to be spoiling that much in the game, because I did like a review of Skyward Sword a few years ago, I think like last year or something. But I'm not going to go into full-on story spoilers. I'm just gonna. I think there's going to be one time where I will get into minor spoilers quite early on in the game, like a few hours into the game. But I'm not going to go into full-on story spoilers. I want you guys to enjoy the game as you play it, if you're a new Zelda fan and Skyward Sword is one of your first Zelda games that you're playing. So, one of the things that is new in this game is basically the graphics. Now, the graphics, like in every other HD or 3D remake, depending on which game you're playing, is a lot better. So if you look at the original Wii graphics, it's kind of they're not bad, but if you compare them to the HD version, they're a lot better. I think this one's a lot better. I felt like that the HD version is a lot more crisp, kind of like how if you compare like Twilight Princess HD to the original Twilight Princess, or if you compare Ocarina of Time 3D or Majora's Mask 3D to the original Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, that sort of thing. The controls are are similar, but depending on how you're playing the game, that really depends on how you play the game, because this game has two types of controls: the motion control based element gameplay stuff, and the basically button control system. Now, the motion control system is basically similar to how you would play Skyward Sword on the Wii. The sword basically follows your movement. Every time you thrust your sword also thrusts. Every time you block, your shield will block, that sort of thing. And with the buttons, it kind of works. It's kind of like if you use the right analog stick and in a certain direction, then Link will do the specific thing. I haven't really used the button controls that much. I've just been mainly using the motion controls because that's what I'm used to. And you can use the button if you've got a Switch that has Joy-Cons, then you can use either the motion controls or the button controls. But if you've got a Switch Lite, you can only use button controls. I just think it's like because like if you've got a Switch Lite, then obviously they will be forced to play in that kind of setup. But if you've got a Switch that might have that have Joy-Cons, then you'll have experience of both worlds depending on what kind of gameplay is up to you and how you might feel when playing the game. And another thing, which is like a very big difference when you're comparing both Skyward Sword and its HD version, is the use of Fi. Now, in the original, Fi would appear a bunch of times whenever you did a specific thing, like using a specific item or doing a specific part of the quest, that sort of thing. But in this version, in the HD remake, it's basically more. Sometimes she appears. So if it's like for several important story details or searching for a specific thing, that's what. And then there will be times if Fi will want to tell Link something, and then you'll hear Link as Fi wanting to speak to Link, and you'll see the sword, the goddess sword on your back glow. So those are like very very big differences you can see comparing to both versions, and I think that's a slight improvement, quite a big improvement, because like one of the criticisms for Fi that a lot of people had in the original Skyward Sword was that Fi never shut up, basically, and people said, oh, she keeps on telling you stuff that you've already done, already know, that sort of thing, and I think that this is a lot. Even though I like Fi, I think that Fi is a nice companion, and she helps Link throughout the game and tells him about the specific areas of each land and how to find specific dungeons and stuff like that. I think this is a large improvement to like how she just appears every 5 seconds after you've done a specific thing. So I do like Fi, but I do feel like this is a large and big improvement over how a player might use her. So now it's time for some gameplay. So for the gameplay part of the review, I'm going to show you the 2 types of gameplays that you can do in the game. So as I said before, in Skyward Sword HD, there's the motion controls. So right now I'm using the motion controls, as you can clearly see. So as you can see, Link is moving the exact same way that my hand is moving, or my arm. And if I do a spin, he'll do a spin and stuff like that. But that will cost stamina. And if you look at a particular enemy, like this moblin, let's say, you can like do a lot of things like jump over his head and if you stick the remote a lot, he'll basically just do a lot of things. And then now that the moblin has lost a shield, he's basically just out. Okay, he's only a spear. Now I think that's a really good thing. I think the gameplay for the motion controls is really interesting, because and really nice, because it's just just using the controls. And there are other enemies in the game that use the Wii remote or the gameplay style mechanics. For example, the Deku Barbers in this game. So for the Deku Barbers, there are 2 types of Deku Barbers: the yellow ones and the blue ones. The yellow ones are basically have used multiple ways. So it's like like vertical or horizontal. I think it's like and then there's the blue ones, and depending on which one you face, have a vertical or horizontal one, depending on which blue one you fight. And I think that's a really good use of the motion controls, because it really basically makes you think, oh, okay, I'm going to do vertical or horizontal or stuff like that, and you can also do like diagonal as well, which I think is a really nice area. And also there's also Octoroks, which are, I think, one of the few enemies in the or basically one of the enemies in the game that you can deflect their projectiles. Unlike several other enemies in which you might want to, like Deku Barbers, no, not Deku Barbers, but goblins, if you want to deflect their swords or something like that. And yeah, and also if you don't reflect a particular enemy's things at the right time, your shield will take damage, as you just seen right there. My shield just took damage, and with this particular shield that I've got, it's called the Secret Shield, that you can get after, I think, once you get into the middle of the game, and I believe it's the only shield in the game to repair itself. So if this shield takes damage, it will repair itself. Now I'm going to quickly move on to the items. So the items, so it's basically the Gust Bellows, the bombs, the beetle, the bug net, and the Scattershot, or originally was called the Slingshot, if you didn't upgrade it up in Skyloft. they all use the motion controls in some kind of way. So for the bombs, you can either throw them or roll them, and you can like change direction on how you feel like. So let's say if I want to roll them, I can just do that, and then the bombs will do that. They will roll, and you can also. Oh, I was going to show you putting away in your bomb bag, but I guess I was a bit too late. For the gust bellows, it basically follows you around, and that basically just moves away sand or dust, depending on which part of the game you're in. For the beetle, which I've upgraded into tough beetle, you can basically just fly around, and then once you upgrade it the first time, it can pick up stuff, and it can also, it can destroy Deku Barbers, like so. It can do that, but it does have a limited amount of charge. Oh, and also, one of the cool things about this is that it can, apart from picking up bombs, it can pick up stuff like hearts and rupees, that sort of thing, and then bring them back to you, and then whatever you've collected will be added onto the particular health or rupees. The next item is the bug net, and this net can be used to pick up stuff like bugs or specific like collectibles like feathers. So if for these ones, if you want to collect the feathers, you really have to be really careful on how you want to collect those feathers, because if you mess up, then you'll have to wait until the birds respawn in and then try and do it again. And for the scatter shot or the slingshot, depending on which version of it you have, it can shoot projectiles or Deku seeds, I think. So it can, depending on which version you have. If you've got the slingshot, then they'll only use one bit of ammo. But if you're using the scatter shot, depending on which one you want to use, you can either use one or multiple bits of ammo. But this can be useful to stun enemies, which I think is quite useful, because then you can just go in for the damage. And there we go. And yeah, and I'm going to quickly show you how to use the bird with how to use your loft wing with the motion controls, because I feel like I think that's a really good use of the motion controls when you're not fighting enemies with your sword. So yeah, and also the only way, apart from using the amiibo, which I'll talk about later on in the review, there's another way of going up into the sky, and that is using these bird statues. So if you want to go back to the sky, yes, it will basically send you back up into this sort of like teleportation whirlwind thingy, I think. So yeah. So you'll do that. And then with the right Joy-Con, you can basically just fly about and just do a lot of things. Well, basically just going from destination to destination. But what I like about the Loft Wing section is that you can basically go to the different islands, and you can also do this sort of like speed up move. And you can use this move to take out crows that have rupees, and depending on which crow you're trying to get a rupee from, they will have different rupees. So one will have 20, another one will have 1 rupee in terms of colour, and one will have a silver one, which I believe is 100 rupees. And also in the sky, besides the floating islands, there are these floating rock things, which if you go through one of them, will give you a speed boost, which I think is quite nice, because then you can get to your location very much quickly, or quicker. And yeah, I think it's quite cool. And also it's like a good, and for the map you can basically just look at where all the locations are. So you've got like Isle of Songs, Bamboo Island. Spoilers, I'm sorry, but there will be spoilers in this part of the video. I'm sorry, I should have stated. Oh, I'm so sorry. Boy. So yeah. Well, I did say spoilers in the review, so in the beginning of the review. So yeah. Should have said so in the beginning of this part of the Let's Play. So yeah, and also, if I can go back to Skyloft, depending on where you fall in Skyloft, will determine where you land. Because if you land next to the bazaar, you'll be looking at this part of the bazaar. So you'll be looking at, I think, the south section or the north. I think the south. I think. I don't know, but it will land you on this area of the island, and in front of the bazaar. And yeah, I think that's a really nice way of basically putting your Link on the map instead of just like, oh, he just, because let's say Link landed over there where the windmill is, but then he lands, let's say, where the tree is. That wouldn't make sense because Link was obviously landing over here, but he somehow landed here. And now I'm going to show you the button controls for the game. Now, with the button controls, it basically acts the same in terms of how you might use the motion controls for the sword. So you can basically still do all the stuff you can. So you can just basically just do that. Yeah, I haven't really been using the button controls that much, because I've been mainly using the motion controls. And so far, I think they're okay. I think if I ever did want to try and use the button controls for the sword, I feel like that'll be a lot more difficult to use, because it will just be like I'm using the right control stick to basically control the sword. And yeah, I don't know, it's okay I guess, but I think it'll be like kind of me just getting used to just playing the game via this way. And also, yeah, it'll be very weird to control Link. Like, I don't know, like these controls are very new, like in terms of how to use them, because I have barely used. I don't even hang on. See, I'm not used to these controls. I'm mainly used to the motion controls, because like if you're using the motion controls and you want to move the camera, you will have to use the right stick to basically move the camera. But for this, it's basically just you using your sword and me just using Z targeting or ZL targeting to basically move the camera around. I think there is a way to get the camera around in buttons, in the button controlled area, but I'm just going to stick to ZL targeting because I feel like that's a lot easier. So, for my thoughts on the controls in this game, I feel like that the motion controls are a lot better, because I think it's mainly because I have been used to them a lot more, because I have played a lot of it in the original Skyward Sword. Yeah, and I feel like the button controls, if I did ever want to use them, if I'm going like away, like if I'm going on a trip or something, I would have to get used to these controls if I ever want to use them. So yeah, that's been my review that's been the gameplay, and now it's time to go back to the review. So for this part of the review, I'm going to go into my quite spoilery territory. So if you haven't played this game yet, then I would suggest playing the game up until, or try and play through all the game around about once you've done the 3rd dungeon, and you can still continue after that. But yeah, and I will put the time code, or like there'll be a time code or something on screen, or saying where you can skip to, but where you can like just skip on to the next bit of the review. But the one problem that I have with Skyward Sword HD is the harp. Now the harp is basically an instrument that you are given by Zelda after beating the 3rd dungeon, and in both the original Skyward Sword and the HD version, you basically have to, like, if you want to do specific parts of the game, like if you want to do the pumpkin landing side quest, or if you want to try and unlock the Silent Realms, you will have to, like, use the harp to basically just move Link's hand across it to basically keep in time with the rhythm. I feel like, personally to me, that the controls for the harp were slightly better for the Wii version than it is in the HD version, because I feel like some of the time the harp in the Switch version just didn't really connect a lot of the time, and didn't really, because every time I tried to, like, move Link and try and make him draw the notes out, they wouldn't work some of the time, and they would go out of rhythm for some of the areas in the game that I was trying to do, like unlock the Silent Realms and also try and do the pumpkin landing harp part of this side quest. And I felt like that in Skyward Sword in the Wii version, I felt like that the controls were a lot better and a lot more smoother in those parts of the game than they were in the HD version. But yeah, that's my only problem that I have with the game. The main controls, in terms of the sword and the Loftwing and pretty much everything else, are a lot better in the HD version than in the Wii version, because a lot of people said that they're playing in the Wii version. A lot of the times they had to I had some people saying that they had to calibrate a lot of times, and some other people said they didn't have to recalibrate some of the time. But in this version, in the Switch version, I feel like that it's a lot better, because if you want to have your pointer at the screen, and if it's like off center, you have to press the Y button, and that is a lot better than just putting your Wii remote on a surface and waiting for it to calibrate. So I think that's a lot better. I think that's really a lot better in the Switch version, because I think and now I think the controls are really not that a lot better in the Switch version. And so overall, I think it's been it has been a blast replaying Skyward Sword, because it is my all-time favorite Zelda game. I enjoy this game. It has like a great story, great cast, great villains, great bosses, and there's a lot of cool things about this game that I really enjoy, and I'm glad that people who haven't played this game and who might be new to the Zelda series are getting to experience now. And before I go, this game is also amiibo accessible, but it's only accessible to, I think, one amiibo, and that is the Zelda Loftwing amiibo. Now, a lot of people from what I've heard, have kind of criticized the ability that this specific amiibo has used, because basically what this does, the amiibo that is that it basically warps Link from the surface to the sky, and then the surface to the sky, or the sky to the surface and surface to the sky. Yeah. And basically what that means is, if let's say you're in the starting area of Farron Woods, let's say, and let's say you've just landed in the sealed grounds, then let's say you used the Zelda Loftwing amiibo, you would go flying back up to the sky, and then let's say you wanted to go back to Skyloft and quickly, let's say, get some potions or something because you forgot to get one, and then once you've finished on Skyloft and got the potions, might got some extra rupees, that sort of thing, you would use the Zelda amiibo to basically go back down to the area that you were originally before you went back up to the sky. And I don't know, because I think it would have been better if the Zelda amiibo, Zelda Lofting amiibo, had like a different thing. For me personally, it would be nice if we could see some customization thing for a Lofting or something. But for what it is worth, I think it's like it's okay, I guess. I think it would have been better if it had some kind of customization, but it's done, it's out there, it's got its thing, so yeah. And personally I think the main amiibo thing, if you exclude the whole ability that it does, is quite cool, and I think it's a really cool looking amiibo, and I think it's a really interesting looking one, because there's basically Zelda and her loft wing, and I think that's a really cool and nice looking amiibo, so yeah. So overall, I have really enjoyed playing Skyward Sword HD. It has been fun replaying my all-time favourite Zelda game, and if you're a new Zelda fan, or a Zelda fan that has recently played the Zelda series in games like, let's say, Link's Awakening Remake or Breath of the Wild or Age of Calamity, I highly suggest getting Skyward Sword HD for the Switch and just playing through the game and just having a really, really fun time. So yeah, that's been my review for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.